Hello YouTube. We're running through all of the Magic the Gathering cards for M15. We were going to show you the cards at the same time, but we've had technical difficulties, so we can't quite do that. So this is going to be our run through of green cards. It'll probably be in 2 videos. What you can do is go to Gatherer, like we have, get up the green cards for M15, and just go through them alphabetically. And that's the order we're going through, so you can look at the same time, or you can just have us talking inanely in the background as you get on with your work or your housekeeping or whatever it is you do in your spare time, but not that. And then you can get yourselves all prepped and ready for your pre-release or your game day for M15. We're going to go through every single card. We're very tired now, but we're going to get to the end because it's a challenge. Okay then, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start with Mr. Thrace.
Hey guys, and welcome to our first card for green. Ancient Silverback, 4 colourless green, Ape, 6/5. For 1 green, regenerate Ancient Silverback. Well, green does efficient stompy creatures better than any other colour, and here we start off with a goodie. 6 mana for a 6/5, it's already pretty nice. Got an ability to, and regenerate, just stops your opponent being able to kill it.
Yeah.
He's good. I like this guy. For limited, he's really good.
Definitely. I mean, I'm a green player, so you're just going to hear me fangasming all the way through the greens. I love them, and this is the first one that I've seen, and I think it's brilliant. 6 for a 6/5.
Yeah.
That's just as good with the regenerate. You're paying that 1 toughness to have a regenerate. Just got to hope there's some mana out to get into it. Okay, next up we've got Back to Nature, which is a 2-drop instant destroy all enchantments. I'll say that again. That's a 2-drop instant destroy all enchantments.
Take that, Theros block, and all your bestow creatures.
Yeah, except for the indestructible ones. Yeah, I'll say that again. That's a 2-drop instant destroy all enchantments. That's all I'm going to say about it. If you're not playing it and you're playing green, then you just haven't drawn it. That's the only reason.
Next up, we have Carnivorous Beast. 4 colourless green, Plant Elemental Beast. 4/5. 5 colourless green, put a +1/+1 counter on Carnivorous Beast. It's quite a fun little creature. 6 mana for a 4/5 is on the low side for it, but it's still efficient. It's still quite a large creature, larger than a lot of other colours can deal with. And then when you hit the 7 mana, you can keep making it bigger. Not bad. It'd be nice if he came with trample, but I'm sure this being green and all, we can find a way to give him trample quite easily.
Yeah, it's not jumping out at me. It's a common, and they do this quite a lot with the blocks, is they release the common greens that look really big and stompy. Could make you win the game, really, because it's your bomb, but when you hit standard, you're not going to get much play out of it. So you could see it winning on game days, but not outside of limited, I don't think.
No, I think you're right.
Right, next up we have Centaur Corsair, which is a 3-drop 3/3 Centaur Warrior. That's it. I'm happy with that. 3-drop for a 3/3 fills a spot in your mana curve, and it gets the job done.
Yeah, efficient. 3 mana for 3 says it all.
There we go.
So next up we have Charging Rhino. 3 colourless green. He's a rhino, obviously. 4/4. Charging Rhino can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So he's 5 mana for a 4/4, reasonably efficient, not a bad sized creature, and it stops your opponent being annoying and gang blocking him to death, particularly if they're trying to gang block him with first strike creatures. Not bad. Not great, but not bad.
He's definitely on that side of things. The scale going up. Probably by the time you got to 5 mana, you could be playing something a bit more effective, but if that's what you've got out of a draw, then go for it. I think there's a lot of play in these decks for mono decks as well. If you get enough of the right colour, you could definitely play a mono deck in whichever colour you choose. Right, next up we have Chord of Calling. This is an X and 3 green with Convoke. So Convoke is the ability to use creatures to pay mana, and either colourless or the colour of the creature itself. This is an instant, and search your library for a creature card with a converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. pretty amazing, really. You are going for your bomb, and that's it. When you're ready to play, I think it's a pretty good instant card, really.
Yeah, it's a great card. I believe it was originally printed in Ravnica, and the Elf Ball deck makes some use of this card. It's a good card. It's strong.
Yeah, I can see it getting people out of some sticky situations, especially playing green. If you need an elf or something like that to finish off to start the ball rolling, you don't even need to use this as your win condition. It just really kind of gets stuff going. And to be honest, if you've got 3 green creatures out, you could tap it for 3 green creatures, and then you've just got your mana to pay for the actual creature, and it doesn't matter what combination mana you pay for it as well. So if it's a red creature and you haven't got any mountains in your deck, that doesn't really matter. You can still go in and go and get it and play it. So I quite like that.
Definitely. So next up we have Elvish Mystic, a staple of green these days. 1 colourless, 1 green, Elf Druid, 1/1. Tap, add 1 green to mana pool. It's a functional reprint of Llanowar Elves. Does the exact same job. Great little creature.
Was Llanowar Elves a druid?
No, that's the one change.
So this is making it even better, because you've now got it into the druid clan.
That's very true.
So that's quite useful. And also in extended, it means you can have 8 Llanowar Elves in your deck, because you've got 4 Llanowar Elves and 4 Elvish Mystics, and that means that you are definitely turn 1 going to drop something, so that on turn 2 you're paying 3 mana.
Yeah,
you could get 3 more of them out, so that on turn 3, it's insane.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
amazing. So I really like the fact. I'm a bit sad that Llanowar Elves aren't reprinted, because it took me years to learn how to say Llanowar properly, and I'm probably not even doing it now. But it's a good card, and I'm happy to have them. I want a play set on Saturday, because I'll be playing green, just because I always do. Next up we have Feral Incarnation, which is 8 colourless, 1 green mana, so that's a 9 mana drop for a sorcery. Does have Convoke though, so that brings the cost down quite a bit. Although Convoke in with green isn't excessively important, because of your elf druids playing for Llanowar Elves. But this lets you put 3/3 green beast creature tokens onto the battlefield. So for 9, you get 3/3/3s. So that's pretty even, really. I like that.
Yeah,
that's quite
9
nice.
mana for the equivalent of 9 power, 9 toughness. Not bad.
Yeah. And then you mix it with the next card coming up, which is
Garruk's Pack Leader. 4 colourless, 1 green, beast, 4/4. Whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Well, drawing in green is really powerful, really useful. It's an ability green very rarely gets hold of, but when it does, it tries to make it good and efficient. So here we get a 5 mana 4/4, already pretty good, and then it lets you draw cards. I like it.
Especially if you're making 3/3 tokens. I've used this a couple of times in a couple of different green decks that I've been putting out, and I've always found Garruk's Pack Leader very useful. Maybe not as a playset of 4. Might be a bit heavy with them at a 5 cost, but can be a useful card in there.
Yeah.
Then we have Gather Courage, which is a 1 green mana instant with Convoke, so you can use a green creature to cast it. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So that's very useful, especially for blocking.
Yeah.
You're all tapped out, your opponent thinks that you don't have anything left to play with, and then you play a Convoke card. Very strong card.
Yeah, I quite like it. So next up we have Genesis Hydra. This is X green for a plant Hydra creature, which is a 0/0, but when you cast Genesis Hydra, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put a non-land permanent card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then shuffle the rest into your library. Genesis Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. That's pretty useful.
Yeah, definitely. You're searching, I just love this card. I really do. There's so many good green cards coming out in this set. Hydras are always fun to play. They always mess with people. You're playing green, so you've got mana ramp going in there. Say you play something like 6X and 2 green. 8 isn't that difficult to play in green quite early on. You're searching 6 cards from your library for a card, a non-land permanent, mana cost 6 or less. Can anyone say Nyssa or Garruk?
Yeah.
And of course, once again, this is reading the cards, which you've always got to do. You don't have to pay that mana cost for it.
Yep.
So you could have red cards, you could have black cards in your deck that you don't have swamps or mountains to play. You can still cast them out. So a little bit of deck fixing in there as well could be quite handy. Alright, next up we've got Hornet's Nest, which is 2 colourless and 1 green mana. It's an insect creature, 0/2, and a defender, so this means it can't attack, it can only defend. Whenever it's dealt damage, put that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch onto the battlefield. That's another disgusting card.
Yeah.
You run it up a creature that's a big fatty creature, it's going to take, 6 damage, 7 damage, something like that. You then get to put that many or 1/1 insect creature tokens with flying. Alright, so that's quite useful, you've got quite a few. But they've also got death touch. So they're your ultimate blockers, really, flying death touch 1/1s. I love this card. I really am smitten for green, and I think you can see why you get so many lovely cards and you mana ramp into all these beautiful things.
Yeah, Hornet's Nest is good actually. I quite like Hornet's Nest.
If you could buff it as well, give it a nice bit of defense, and then you can take a little bit more. To start with, you would really want to be blocking 1/1s, because then you're getting a 1/1 in place and you're still keeping it alive, unless you can up its defense a little bit. That's kind of what I'd want to play on.
So next up we have Hornet Queen. 4 colourless green, green, green. Insect 2/2. Flying, death touch. When Hornet Queen enters the battlefield, put 4 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch onto the battlefield. She's quite fun. She makes 4 creatures on top of herself. All of them have death touch and flying, including her. Pretty useful. But 7 mana is a lot, and she's only a 2/2 herself. Now, you are getting the equivalent of 6 power and 6 toughness, I'll grant you.
With all flying as well.
Yes. But I do worry that when you hit 7 mana, your opponent's going to have ways to deal with that. For example, there was that 1 black spell which gives all non-black creatures -1/-1 to end of turn.
Yeah, there is ways of dealing with this card.
Admittedly, that's 1 card in black that can immediately deal with it. And it's nice to have lots of stuff with death touch and flying, don't get me wrong, it is. I'm just not sure. I'm not sold on Hornet Queen. Hornet Nest, I like that. That was good. Hornet Queen, I'm not 100% sold on.
If there's an insect buffer, I think that would definitely be it. If there's something that gives all insects +1/+1,
Yeah.
then yeah, I would go for it. I mean, I don't think I would play Hornet Queen. Probably if I draw it and I'm playing green, I probably will put it in because it is quite a good card, but it's a game changer, not a game winner.
Yeah.
If you're paying 7 mana for something, you want it to be a game winner.
Yeah.
It will hold off the tide for a long time with those 4 1/1s with death touch plus the one you've already got. If you could flash it in and out, because when it enters the battlefield,
Yeah.
that would be quite useful. It doesn't trigger Garruk's Pack Leader unless you've got something that buffs insects up. Yeah, I'm not sold on this card either.
Yeah.
I'd need to see it in action and see some combos for it. So next up we've got Hunt the Weak, which is a reprint, and that's a 4 mana drop with 1 green. Sorcery, put +1/+1 target, a counter on target creature you control. That creature fights target creature you don't control. Yeah, that's we've seen a lot of cards like these coming through recently. They're really good ways of removing annoying cards, like cards with evasion on them. You can get them, drop them out of the sky, stop invisible stalkers, stuff like that. And your creature gets to keep the +1/+1 counter as well. So you're buffing it and you've got removal, so
Yeah, it's the closest green comes to removal by itself. So it's quite useful. It's not as useful, of course, as the 1 mana that makes them fight, but it does put +1/+1 counter on your creature, like you say, making it bigger.
And it's only a common, so in pre-release it's going to get a lot of play. I don't see it working in standard, but we'll see how it goes.
So, next up we have Hunter's Ambush. 2 colourless, 1 green, instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by non-green creatures this turn. So once again, another card that fits in with the monocolour theme that seems to be running through M15 on top of Convoke. It's not a bad card. It's a pretty useful combat trick when you go all out and your opponent's a bit like, well, I'll block these key creatures. You play that, your other creatures still hit, and the creatures that your opponent tried to block and kill don't take any damage in return. Maybe they even kill the things that are blocking them without dying themselves. It's a nice little combat trick.
I would say it's an expensive fog, but it has the added side of it doesn't negate all damage.
Yeah.
Which I haven't... Oh, we've gone through the Fs and there's no fog.
No.
So there's no fog reprint.
Not this set.
Oh. This is the closest we're getting to a fog, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to make the most of it. Yeah. It's going to be in my deck. If I pull it, it's going to be in there because you need some kind of instant fog style device. Not perfect, but then it's a common.
Yeah.
So you can't expect it to be perfect. Right, next up we have Invasive Species, which is a 3-drop for a 3/3 insect. We're liking insects in this set. When it enters that field, return another permanent you control to its owner's hand. Very useful flashing. In green, I think we're going to see some nice little combos with stuff going out, coming back in. Always do with green. And a 3/3 for 3. You can't argue with that.
Yep, nice efficient build, like you say, great for creatures that have when it comes into play abilities.
Glad you got this one.
So next up we have Kalonian Twin Grove. 5 colourless, 1 green, Treefolk Warrior, Star. Kalonian Twin Grove's power and toughness are each equal to the number of forests you control, much like Nightmare we saw earlier. When Kalonian Twin Grove enters the battlefield, put a green Treefolk creature token onto the battlefield with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of forests you control. So, for 6 mana, you basically get 2 of this guy. And if you're playing mono green, of course, he's going to be 6 mana for 2 6/6s.
Well, I think with mono green, I think you are probably going to be playing a bit of mana ramp going into it as well. So you might be getting something that's a 4, but later game, you're going to be buffing out every time you play a new forest. These 2 guys go up again.
Yeah. So it might not have flying like Nightmare, but it makes 2 of itself. That kind of makes up for it.
Yeah, that's a good card. A very nice rare, and if you pull it, I would play it. Okay, next up we've got Life's Legacy, which is a 2-drop green sorcery. As an additional cost to casting Life's Legacy, sacrifice a creature. Draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. I like this. That's the one problem that you have with green mana ramp is you're doing everything. You can do it. You ramp into lots and lots of mana very early on, but that eats away at your hand. If you cast yourself a big fat creature, but you just still can't get over their chump blockers and you need that little extra, you can then get rid of that 6 and draw yourself another starting hand, basically.
Yeah.
This is a really good card. It's another really good rare, and I think that might even get a playing standard.
Yeah, it might well do. And again, draw is difficult in green, and this is a great one. Green plays really efficiently sized creatures for their mana cost. So 2 mana, even if you sack, say, Centaur Courser, 3 mana for 3/3, for 2 mana, you're still getting 3 cards. That's pretty good in green.
I mean, the only way that this could be a little bit better, I would probably pay more mana on its cost if it was at instant speed.
Yeah,
so you can block with something and then sack that blocker out to do something. But anyway, we've got to live with what we got, and I think that's quite a handy card, and we'll probably get a lot of play.
Yeah. So next up we have Living Totem, 3 colourless, 1 green, plant elemental, 2/3, Convoke. When Living Totem enters the battlefield, you may put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature. Well, 4 mana for a 2/3 isn't necessarily great, but in other colours we were paying 3 mana for a 2/3, and that's pretty efficient. However, This guy also puts +1/+1 counters on another target creature when it comes into play. Pretty good. But on top of that, it's also got Convoke. So you can play it much quicker and buff one of those creatures that you just tapped to convoke him into play.
Yep.
And he's not a bad creature. He's quite nice. Pretty good limited.
I think you'll get a lot of play in limited, maybe not so much going into standard. There doesn't seem to be a lot of counter play in green this time round. If there was a lot of counter play, I would say maybe he would be one of the commons that gets play setted, but I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on that one, I think.
Yeah.
Could be surprised. Next up, we have got another classic print for green, which is 2-drop Naturalize, which is an instant and destroys target artifact or enchantment. Always useful to have a couple of these in your deck. Yeah, especially when we're going to have a look at the artifacts and things later on, and the enchantments that we've got so used to seeing recently. They are game changers a lot of the time, so it could be quite a handy instant card.
Disenchant, but in green. So next up we have Netcaster Spider. 2 colourless, 1 green. Spider, 2/3 with reach. Whenever Netcaster Spider blocks a creature with flying, Netcaster Spider gets +2/+0 at the end of turn.
Wow.
This is a nice, efficient creature. One of the things green struggles with the most, apart from creatures with reach, is creatures with flying. Very rarely does green have flying itself. Yes, it has reach quite often. If you don't get the creature with reach, green flying creatures can wreck you.
Yeah.
This guy, however, 3 mana for a 2/3, as we literally just said, already not bad, but it's got reach, and it gets +2/+0 when it blocks a creature with flying. Immediately shoot it up to a 4/3. That's nice and efficient.
For a good green deck, you're going to be wanting to play 2 to 4 of these, I think. Really.
Yeah.
The chances of getting them a bit low, but if you can, then you're really going to be set then against the flying invasion that you're going to have. We haven't seen any. Oh no, we have. We've got the insects.
Yes.
We've got insects in flying, so that's not too bad for green this time round. But we've always got 1 or 2 spiders that are quite handy. Probably one of the better spiders that I've seen recently.
Yeah.
Actually, the 3 for a 2/3 wouldn't be too bad. I would pay that for the reach ability in green, but then you chuck it in the +2 when it's going against a creature with flying. I like it.
Nice and efficient.
Alright, we're on to the next page. Oh, so here we go. This is the mythic green Planeswalker. We've got Nyssa Worldwaker, which is a 5-drop double green Planeswalker Nyssa. So her first +1 ability, that's right, I said first +1 ability, is target land you control becomes a 4/4 elemental creature with trample. It's still a land. And also, it doesn't say till end of turn. So that land permanently becomes a 4/4. You're playing green, you're going to have lots of land. I like it. Yeah, that's lovely. Then her second +1, untap up to 4 target forest. That's sick and disgusting. And that ramps her up. Okay, one thing I do need to mention though is that she's 5 cast to bring out. She's only 3 loyalty to start with. That's probably why she has the 2 pluses rather than a plus and a minus.
Yeah.
And then her final ability is -7. Search your library for any number of basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Those lands become 4/4 elemental creatures with trample. They're still lands. That's sick and disgusting. It would take you 5 turns to get that, maybe a few less if you've got the Ajani Planeswalker. I don't see you getting to that at all. If someone let you get to that, then they deserve to lose. That's the game winner. But to be honest, each turn turning a land into a 4/4 elemental creature with trample, that's going to win you the game. By the time you've done that, then you've done 4 turns, you've won the game already. You don't need that -7. So she's amazing and gorgeous, and I think I want to have her babies.
Yeah, I mean, in the past I've always worried about turning your lands into creatures because in some ways it makes them easier to destroy, but 4/4 is hefty. 4/4 with trample is hefty with a nice ability, and so red finds it quite hard to deal with 4 damage because a lot of its spells will do 2 or 3 damage if they can't block it at the same time. But as you say, you're going to make a lot of land, and she costs 5, so the likelihood is you've probably, not necessarily, but probably already got at least 5 in play.
Yeah.
And she turns every land you draw from then on Whereas sometimes you'll be going, oh, land, I wanted a threat. She makes him a threat.
Yeah.
4/4 trample, threat.
If you play Nyssa, if you pull Nyssa on play day, please build a mono green deck with high land levels. I know land is difficult. When you're playing green, they don't need to play a lot of land because you can make it up in other things and you go search. No, play lots of land. Just make a Nyssa deck. I mean, she'll be got rid of quite quickly, but if you think every turn you're making a 4/4, your opponent's then got to chuck things at Nyssa, and you've got that 4/4 to make it.
Yeah.
Okay, flying is an issue, but then you've got your insects. You can make a lot of mana. You've already got 5 out. Then you can untap up to 4 target forests if you don't want to change that elemental into. Then you've got your X and your double green going searching for stuff.
Yeah.
And she's only 5 as well, so if you've got him out first, you've only got to pay 7 mana to go and get her and put her into play. It's a really, really good card, and if green mono doesn't win a few tournaments, I'm going to be very, very surprised. Right, so next up we've got...
So next we have Nyssa's Expedition. 4 colourless, 1 green, sorcery with Convoke. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So it's quite a high mana cost, but you get 2 lands and they go straight onto the battlefield. Yes, they're tapped, but they go straight to the battlefield, not into your hand, straight down there. But it's got Convoke, so you can hamper that, well, you can lessen that steep mana curve with your creatures. So it's quite a nice little mana ramp spell.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite effective. It does sound quite expensive at the start, but since we've been reviewing all these Convoke cards, none of them are overpowered. I think they all seem on the outset quite expensive, but I think once they start getting played, you'll see them being quite good. You think about all those insects that you've got.
Yeah.
You tap each of them for 1, then you're going to go for more land. I think anyone who really latches on and goes for Convoke on the day will have a head start to other people who are kind of like a little bit offish to Convoke. I think they'll be feeling it by the end, and then by the next time they play,
Let's see why it's good.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have Overwhelm, which is a 7 mana drop for a sorcery. It's got Convoke again, so this is what we were saying, it's quite high mana cost. Its creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn, so it's an Overrun without the trample, which is a bit unfortunate because Overrun is the win. That's your trigger card in green. I've got a feeling, seeing as they've printed this, we're not going to get Overrun. We've just got Overwhelm. Bit of a shame, but if you've got your insects in play, they're now 4/4 flyers. You release them, and they're not. People aren't going to be able to do a lot of defense in that.
I think it's good. Needs to give them trample to make it great.
Yeah, and especially for the cost, because the Convoke doesn't really work in this situation. You're then tapping creatures to do it. So unless you've got a Copperhorn Scout, which we've gone through the seas, there isn't a Copperhorn Scout. I'm not overly happy about that. I would need a new trigger to win in green.
Yeah. So here we have the next card in the Paragon cycle. Paragon of Eternal Wilds. 3 colourless, 1 green. Human Druid, 2/2. Other green creatures you control get +1/+1. Same we do the guys. 1 green, tap him down. Another target creature you control gains trampled end of turn. That's nice. I like that ability because it's the closest green, generally gets to evasion, and it makes great big stompy creatures actually be able to be stompy, and it costs you 1 mana.
Well, you look at your Rhino now. It's now a 4/4 with trample. Was Rhino 4/4 already?
It's 4/4.
So it's now a 5/5.
5 with trample.
With trample. This is what we were saying about insects. If I've got one of him, I think I would play insects because they come out as 2/2s then.
Yeah.
And then they've got death. Very, very useful card. Completely. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted.
We had a bit of a technical hitch here.
And there we go. That's dealt with. I do apologise about that. Right. Next up, we've got a Fighter Titan.
Fighter Titan.
Fighter Titan. See, thought I was going to get that wrong there. Very, very can't do words very well anyway at the best of times. This is a 6-drop double green plant elemental for 7/2. Sounding a little bit on the tight side. When it dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of his or her next upkeep. Okay, that pays for it then.
Yeah.
You've got this 7. You mix it with the Paragon, which gives it trample. You're doing something. You're killing something. Either killing something or they're taking a big lot of damage. And then at the beginning of your next upkeep, so you haven't got it for defense, but you have got it next turn, and then it will need to go through upkeep, untap, upkeep. So would
Draw.
it be ready for?
Exactly.
Would it have summoning sickness that turn or not? Because it was played that turn. So
Yeah,
it
but
have
it enters the
summoning
battlefield tapped anyway. So you get
sickness. All right, yeah.
untap happens first,
Upkeep.
so it's tapped either way. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Okay, so I mean it's not bad. It's a returning creature that keeps coming back. Yeah, when it dies. So if you've got to sack it or anything like that, that might be a little bit tricky if it gets exiled, and that's not coming back from that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I quite like it because whenever you attack with it as a 7/2, even if they sort of go, oh, I'm going to block with it, it's going to kill pretty much anything that blocks it, and then you get it back. Yeah, you can't attack or block with it immediately, but you still get it back, and each time you hit them with it, actually in limited, it's going to be ridiculous, and I think it might see some play in some budget constructed things. I'm not going to say it's going to be a game changing in constructed, but I think some budgetary people might pay it because I don't think it'll be worth a huge amount of money.
No, I can see it has downsides, and there's things that do that job better, especially with the double green price. But yeah, it's a nice way to recycle creatures as well, especially with green, where sometimes you can be milling creatures into that kind of death trap just to kind of get your opponents down and things. So I can see that as quite a useful card.
So next up we have Plummet. 1 colourless, 1 green, instant, destroy target creature for flying. Staple green card, especially for limited things, because, like you say, flying is so darn good in limited. Plummet just deals with it. Green has reach, but it also just likes to say, no, just go away, flying creature.
Yeah, Plummet, very, very useful. And it doesn't matter what creature it is. You look at all those dragons that are in the red.
Yeah.
You just drop them out of the sky. Really, really useful card. Always worth having 1 or 2 in your deck. Next up, we've got Ranger's Guile, which is another one of these classic reprints that they're going through. 1 drop for an instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 against hexproof until end of turn. Simple, straightforward. 1 drop, 1 mana for a +1/+1 can be a game changer.
Yeah.
At the best of times. A question regarding the hexproof though. Stack wise, if someone casts an instant on your creature, then you play this on top of them. That resolves first.
Yeah, no, I've just been thinking about this myself while you were talking about the card. The problem is, so I get what you're trying to say, because I was thinking the same thing. Can I save
then
my
it
creature
loses
from it?
its target.
But the problem is they've already targeted it. They have targeted your creature and said, right, this affects it. Now, the only other instance I can think where it might make a difference is, for example, say protection. So let's just say a red player shocks your 1/1 creature. You then give your 1/1 creature protection from red. They've already targeted it, normally they wouldn't be able to. When it resolves, no damage is dealt because it got protection from red.
Yeah.
Whereas in this sense, they have targeted it
So it's already got the target. It needs a target before it goes on
Yeah.
the stack.